Her will is now manifest, long may she reign. Random rules.
Lost in Random is an adventure game set in an eerie fairy tale-like world ruled by dice. Well, I guess technically speaking, it is ruled by a queen who uses dice, or controls the use of dice. But I'm splitting hairs here. You play as Even, a young girl living in the kingdom of Random. By order of the Queen, every child in Random rolls a die on their 12th birthday. When it's your sister, Odd's turn, she winds up being taken by the Queen to live with her in Sixtopia.
Even! Oh, no!
Stop it!
No, Even.
Now it's your mission to try and get her back, or with the help of Dicey, your living die pal who wields a mysterious power. One of the game's strongest points is definitely the story. It feels like a movie at times, with lots of conversations and cutscenes that are beautifully voice acted.
Freedom was a district tearing itself apart in a three-way civil war.
The characters burst with personality, and the world feels rich with history. It is worth noting that things do get a little spooky at times, and it might be a bit too much for younger spawnlings. Now, in general, I'm not usually a fan of long cutscenes. If I'm playing a game, then I want to be playing, not watching. So, how does the gameplay stack up? Well, compared to the very good story elements, it feels rather underpolished. The clunky movement made running through the rabbit warren-like towns pretty unenjoyable, and I got lost very often. And sure, it looks cool, but having dark, fog-laden environments makes it really hard to see. And then there's the combat. This is arguably the part of the game that involves the most playing, and so any problems with the gameplay become much more obvious here. The idea behind the combat is very cool. Enemies have crystals on them, which you need to break and collect to move cards from your deck into your hand. Each card has a particular token cost to play, and they can be things like weapons, bombs, or power-ups. You can then freeze time by rolling dicey and entering the dice mention. Whatever number you roll is how many tokens you'll get. So even if you draw a really good card, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get to play it. Random rules. One major problem with combat is the collection of crystals. You can break them by pinging them with your slingshot, but this can be tricky, especially with faster enemies. Or you can dash through them right before they strike. Before you get any crystals, there is no way to damage enemies. This means you can get stuck in long bouts of dashing, unable to really do anything. And dashing is another major problem. For a game that relies on it so much, the controls really aren't fluid enough. There is a lock-on feature, but it didn't work well for me. Fights can also go on for a long time, with multiple waves of the same kinds of enemies. I found myself getting fatigued and just wanting to move on. You can customize your deck to suit your playstyle a little more, but the card variety is somewhat lacking. Things get mixed up a bit with boss fights and board game bits, where your rolls also move a giant pawn across the board. This is a bit of fun, but ultimately it still suffers from the issues in the core combat.
Shoot the button to fire the cannon.
Thankfully, you can just set the game to story mode for really easy fights, but to me, that sort of defeats the purpose. With great ideas and creativity, I felt like Lost in Random was really close to being super great, but is let down by the cumbersome gameplay. If you love slightly creepy fairy tale stories, then this is a very good one. But it's not just a story, it's a game, and I personally wanted so much more to play. I'm giving Lost in Random 3 out of 5 rubber chickens.